Welcome to One on One. I'm Greg Bassett, your host for the Salisbury Independent newspaper. It's a big day here at PAC 14 because our representative from Annapolis is back to give us her report on what happened in the 90 days up there. It's an election year. A lot happened. Mary Beth Carozza, welcome.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be back home, Greg.
First nice spring day here, so welcome back for that. You were up there toiling in the wintertime in the dark and the snow. With our governor, who, I have to apologize to you, when he got elected, I thought, this guy's not going to be effective. He doesn't know what he's doing, and then he gets sick with the cancer, and I'm like, this is just going to make it worse for him. He could be the best governor we've ever had.
That's absolutely right. It is a privilege to serve with Governor Larry Hogan. And if you think about the major cultural shift that is affecting the shore and the whole state, it's incredible. And what we're talking about here is he came into office after running on a very narrow platform. He went all around the state and he talked about jobs and the economy. And I also, when I did my door-to-door, knocked on those over 5,000 doors, we were hearing the same thing from our constituents. Governor Hogan was hearing it statewide, I was hearing it from the shore, that we both wanted to make sure that we weren't losing our families, our businesses, our retirees to other states. And in order to change that culture, you have to change the policies in the state. And Governor Hogan's done that. He has focused on jobs and the economy, and you look at how the state has turned around. The fact that now in these Maryland General Assembly sessions that we have the budget under control, fiscal responsibility has been brought back to Maryland. And also the fact that the past few sessions we're talking about what type of tax relief as opposed to spending all of our time opposing tax increases. This is a major cultural shift for the state of Maryland that is benefiting the shore, and it's because Larry Hogan is our governor.
I think it's amazing that you saw it coming, because I thought the Democrats are going to eat this guy alive. It's going to be even worse than with Governor Ehrlich, where it's more than elbows under the basket. It's just people punching each other in the head. But somehow he's caught the imagination and the respect of the state, of the people of the state, and the Democratic leaders up there had to come and follow him.
So Larry Hogan had an advantage that Governor Bob Ehrlich never had. He did come in with 50 House Republicans, which is the most ever in history. So he had additional reinforcements in the House and in the Senate. And also, Larry Hogan served in Governor Ehrlich's administration, as did I. We learned a lot during those 4 years of service. And so, if you look again at what Larry Hogan did so effectively and continues to do, he focuses in on some key issues and he works them day in and day out. And I can tell you, since some of the people in his administration on the governor's staff also worked in Governor Ehrlich's administration, Larry Hogan is a hard driver. He's clear on what the priorities are for the state. He's responding to the people of Maryland, and he keeps everybody focused. And it's just been great to be part of that. I look at myself as I'm a partner of Larry Hogan in the Maryland General Assembly. We each have our own roles, and you look at what happened this past session. We're really proud of those accomplishments.
His office sends a thing to reporters every day about bipartisanship successes that they've had. Being cynical, I'll look at it and I'll go, yeah, whatever. But then I actually started reading them really intently. And I did come to understand that he knows that he's got to be bipartisan to get things accomplished. And that's important to him enough that they list it and talk about it and then call out others who are not bipartisan. Just a whole fascinating different approach to it.
It is. And if you look at Governor Hogan's initiatives, he proposes a lot of initiatives, whether it's on education or the heroin opioid epidemic or on economic development. And those initiatives often are then authored by a member of the General Assembly, oftentimes of the other party because they have the majority. But they're forged as a bipartisan bill. And Governor Hogan has been very clear on it's not about getting the credit. If we can take, most of his initiative and have it folded into a legislative bill under somebody else's name, make sure it's bipartisan co-sponsors on both sides, the House and the Senate side, and move forward, that's a victory for all of Maryland.
While you're up there was the school shooting in Florida. There was a lot of attention to hardening schools, to improving school safety. And I know you worked with the governor on that.
None of us knew going into this 2018 Maryland General Assembly that school safety would be a defining issue, and it certainly was, based on the Parkland, Florida shootings, and of course the one that we had in St. Mary's County. And so Governor Hogan took a step back from it. He recognized from the start it wasn't a matter of just throwing money at the issue and to the school districts. What he did is, yes, we're going to commit the resources to this. And over $40 million under Governor Hogan's leadership and the joint leadership of the House and Senate committed this funding that we got through this year. But it wasn't just the funding, it was putting in the infrastructure and the standards so that we're actually being responsive to specific school districts, specific schools, so that we can better protect our students. And I was very proud of our work here. A lot of this came through the House Appropriations Committee, and we would go through, and what I tried to do is understand how we could be best responsive to the local school districts. And it's one of the reasons now, as a follow-up, now that that money has been passed, my follow-up is to meet individually with each one of the school superintendents. We'll be doing that during the interim, and to make sure that they have not only the funding, but the support, the standards, the infrastructure in place to support and meet the specific needs. And that's the only way that we're going to keep our children safe in schools.
How did things go in terms of economic development in this last session?
Well, I was really pleased to see, and it happened, I believe, on the last day of session, as so many of these big issues, believe it or not, are still decided, that the More Jobs for Maryland Act, which Governor Hogan championed last session, in which Worcester and Somerset counties were identified as Tier 1 counties, that this year the More Jobs for Maryland Act Part 2 includes Wycomico County. And so what that will do, it'll allow for different type of tax treatment, so we can use it as a tool to both retain and to attract more businesses to the county.
Now, the first thing I remember you doing as a delegate was working with Chris Eccleston on a veterans issue. And then you closed your House of Delegates career basically again with a veterans issue. What was that?
So it really is interesting how it came full circle. So in the very beginning, back in 2015 when I was elected, I started working with some of the veteran-owned businesses and working with the Maryland Department of Veterans Affairs, Secretary Owings, and learned that the percentage for veteran-owned businesses getting state contracts is only 0.5%, which is very low. So I worked with former Delegate Kelly Scholes, who's now the Secretary of Department of Labor. She originally had a bill that would increase that percentage to 5%. So she, because she was going into the Hogan administration, she said, Mary Beth, would you like to carry this bill? And she said, you're really going to have to work it because they're not going to automatically increase this, even though I thought that, well, this is for veteran-owned businesses. Of course the support would be there. So when I introduced the bill originally in 2015, I did introduce it at the 5% level. But I found out through working with the different departments and agencies.
And that's a big number.
That's a big number. And,
that's a big ask.
And that's a big ask. And what I found out is through research and working with the Maryland Department of Veterans Affairs is that most of the Maryland departments, agencies and departments were not even meeting the 1% goal. So working with the members of the House Health Government and Operations Committee, they came back and said, we're willing to double it from 0.5 to 1%, and that we need to really now push and make sure all the departments and agencies across Maryland state government reach that. And it was really exciting because Chris Eccleston from Delmarva Veteran Builders came up and he testified, and he testified about how difficult the process was, and that if we're really serious about having more veteran-owned businesses have these opportunities, you have to ease that process. So we were successful back in 2015 of raising it from 0.5% to 1%, but now you fast forward in the 2018 session, and what we did is we built off of a bill last year and moved forward this year, and this bill this year actually puts a better infrastructure in place. It allows the Maryland Department of Veterans Affairs to certify the veteran-owned businesses as opposed to having that certification done at the federal level. And it also brings in the Governor's Office of Small Business, Minority and Women Business Affairs to oversee the contracts to make sure that departments and the agencies are meeting the 1% goal. And the reason it's so important that the Governor's Office of Small Business, Minority and Women Affairs does that is because they're already doing the oversight for those other programs. Now they can step in and provide the training, the compliance, the oversight to make sure that our veteran-owned businesses meet that 1%, with my goal to, in the future, try to increase the 1% and see if we can get that up a little bit higher. So it came full circle, and believe it or not, that bill was not approved until 11:59 on sine die, the last day of the 2018 Maryland General Assembly session.
You know, there's so many great stories about that last hour when things go right or wrong, and the most famous local one is the ferry issue, where we thought we were going to get a ferry in Crisfield, and it died in the last 2 minutes, 25 years ago probably now. Is it really that intense at the end?
Well, let me tell you about that. I had been told that bills could actually pass up until 11:59, and I really didn't believe it until it happened to me. And it was one of those where, you know, when I saw that it had come up, and then a member had special ordered the bill. That is never good if a member stands up and special orders a bill, because it usually means they're delaying it for whatever reason. So as soon as that came up, I immediately went to the person who special ordered it, to that member, and I said, "Is there a problem?" And he said, "You know, you need to talk to the speaker and the speaker's staff to find out the schedule for this." So, you know, I went to the speaker's chief of staff, and I just said, you know, I said, "This is a small veterans procurement bill, but it has great ramifications, because if we can pass this bill, we can increase the number of veteran-owned businesses doing business in the state of Maryland." And you know, I saw that it was special ordered. You know, is it on track? Is it going to come up later? I was asking every question I could. So I was told at that point that, you know, I could expect to see the bill come up, you know, later, but it would be closer to the very end of session. Well, about 20 of 12, you know, I'm, you know, at that point wondering, okay, we're 20 minutes out. When is this going to come up? And I'm on pins and needles, and I'm having other members ask the speaker and the speaker staff. So lo and behold, 11:59, the bill came up and it passed.
And the speaker's in the chair for this.
Absolutely.
So when you go to the chief of staff and you ask for something, what's that process? You go knock on the door, or?
Well, at that point, remember, this is the last day of session, so
they're busy.
The speaker's chief is literally right, you know, there with the speaker on the House floor. Okay. And she's dealing with all these issues that members are coming to her with. There, of course, are bills. Governor Hogan still has bills that he's still trying to see through. Stuff's coming over from the Senate. So it's just a flurry of activity. And here I am, you know, basically just being a nudge saying, you know, what about this veteran-owned small business bill? We need to get it through before sine die. So I guess in the end, persistence can make a difference.
Now, you're a Republican up there. In theory, the speaker's not supposed to listen to you.
Well, I really find that the speaker in that
This is Mike Bush from Anne Arundel County.
Right, that in the leadership role as speaker, he's the one who actually determines who is assigned to what committees. He obviously determines what bills are going to be considered on the House floor. And I was impressed with the fact that he came at our Appropriations Committee dinner this year, and he stood up in front of all of our members, obviously bipartisan group, And he said that he was very proud of the members of the Appropriations Committee, that he knows that we do a lot of heavy lifting, pushing the budget through. It's our one constitutional responsibility that we have to pass a balanced budget. And he wanted us to know, and he looked out at each one of us and said, each one of you was handpicked to be on the House Appropriations Committee. So it really meant a lot that, again, in his leadership role as Speaker, not talking about all of the policy positions he takes, which of course I don't support all of those policy positions, but in his leadership position as Speaker, he has been very fair. And I guess I didn't quite realize the impact of being appointed to the Committee on Appropriations, but after the Speaker said you were handpicked for this committee, that really meant a lot.
I do think the Speaker is a very forward-thinking guy, and now Norm Conway from Wycomico County was the chairman of Appropriations forever. When we lost him, we lost that seat, but then they appointed you basically to represent us on Appropriations. And at the time I was thinking, why would they pick like a rising star in the Republican Party to be on Appropriations? Why not pick some schleppy person that they could sort of roll on the committee? But it says a lot that he's thinking big picture, and he would put someone like you with real skills on an important committee like that.
Well, I certainly appreciated that opportunity and really tried to use that position to make sure that we were supporting our shore priorities. And it is a lot easier to support those shore priorities when Governor Larry Hogan is willing to put those in the budget on the front end, whether it's funding for downtown revitalization of Salisbury or for the Purdue Stadium. Governor Hogan realized those were priorities for our area. He put those in the budget to begin with, and then I saw my job was to make sure that we protected those priorities for the shore, keeping in mind that our role is to cut in order to make sure that if we wanted to do something else in addition to what Governor Hogan proposed in his budget, the only way that we could propose additional funding in other areas is that you have to cut in the existing budget. And I wanted to make sure, they were not going to cut our shore priorities, whether it's funding for tourism or, projects for Salisbury.
Your district, the way it's laid out, kind of comes right up to the city line coming from the east. So you've got western Wycomico. And then the guy who's got the district that sort of wraps around Salisbury is Carl Anderton. You guys have completely different styles, I think, but you seem to work together really well.
We do, and I think what you do is we all play to each other's strengths. Delegate Anderton serves on the House Environment and Transportation Committee. That's a key committee for the shore. So if you look at what he did, he and Delegate Otto, who serve on that together, District 38A, that they would look at bills that actually would hurt the shore and have to push back on those. One of those being the poultry air bill that was introduced that would have been so devastating to this area. Also, if you look at, again, playing to people's strengths, Carl Anderton is the former mayor of Del Mar. He is the former MML president, Maryland Municipal League president. He used that experience to really push the highway user funds, and having those funds, after they'd been raided for 8 years by the O'Malley administration, having those funds with Governor Hogan's leadership, making it a priority, having them returned to the locals, having them returned to the municipalities and to the counties. And again, that was a bipartisan bill. Delegate Anderton played a key role in working through that to try to get some consistency in the funding for the out year. So not just for FY19, the budget that we just passed, but for looking forward for FY20 through 24 to make sure that we would have additional highways user funds being returned to the municipalities and to the counties.
In the 2-3 weeks after the session, it's sort of the fun time. That's when the governor signs the bills. And everyone's always happy when the governor's signing bills. And I saw a picture yesterday, you with Leighton Moore from Secrets in Ocean City, who's one of my favorite people, at a bill signing. What was that for?
So again, this is another bill that came full circle. One of my first bills in 2015 was to make sure that Secrets had the authority, the license, that they could actually produce their spirits in Worcester County, as opposed to going across the line in Delaware, having those monies, those revenues go out of state. And so we were successful early on in 2015 to have the distillery license bill passed so they could move forward with that operation right in Worcester County. So this, again, coming full circle, what happened is that the Secrets reached its limits on how many spirits it could produce and sell on site at Secrets. And they were having to basically buy their own spirits from an outside distributor, 150 miles away. So that didn't make any sense at all. So the bill, what the bill did that was passed in the 2018 legislative session was to raise the limits of what Secrets could purchase their own Secrets distillery spirits and sell them on site, again, keeping the money in Worcester County, keeping the jobs in Worcester County, not having to pay an outside distributor and having that money go out of the area, having it, again, revenue and jobs stay right on the shore.
And then there was an amusing photo, the governor surrounded by 300 dogs. What was that about?
So that was a very exciting bill that I was proud to co-sponsor, which allowed for the adoption of puppies and cats from research institutions like Johns Hopkins, that after they were used for research, to allow the puppies, the beagles, the dogs and the cats to have the public be allowed to adopt them. It's a great bill, but believe it or not, it took 3 sessions or more for it to pass. And under the leadership, again, a bipartisan effort with Delegate Ben Kramer from Montgomery County and Senator Mike Huff from Frederick County, a Republican, the bill passed this year. And I was really glad to see it pass because it had gone through my committee last year and didn't pass, and it came back through my committee this year, and we were able to get it through. And so Governor Hogan decided to have a good time at that bill signing. So we had, we had all the animal protection groups in with the puppies at the bill signing. It's the most people I've ever seen at a bill signing. It's the most fun I've ever had at a bill signing. And then afterwards, we were taking photos on the State House steps. And somebody came up with the idea, looked across the street at Government House, where Governor Hogan lives, with the First Lady, and said, "Oh, that looks like a nice yard for the puppies to take a run." And Governor Hogan heard it and said, "That is a good idea. Let's go." And then at that point, Governor Hogan, like the Pied Piper, led a whole group of the puppies and came over, and executive protection and staff didn't know what he was up to. And next thing you know, we're on the grounds, and the puppies are running around, and Governor Hogan's right in the middle of it, and it was a great day.
That's really cool. What are your plans for the summer?
So, as you know, I am running for state senate. I'm very excited to be home, and I will be out and about. Where I am energized, inspired, is being out with the people every day. That's what I did when I ran for delegate and won close to 74% of the vote. That's what I plan to do in all 3 counties, Somerset, Wycomico, and Worcester.
73.85, but close to 74.
So, and I want to be precise there. And I'll be in all 3 counties.
She's just saying that because I had 74% in the pool that we had between each other. So she almost had 74.
So I will be working very hard, but my energy comes from being out with the people and hearing, again, their ideas. I will be working day and night to make sure Larry Hogan is reelected as our governor. I'm absolutely convinced that the window of opportunity for the shore is open now, given Governor Hogan's focus on jobs and the economy. Areas like Somerset County that really can take advantage of Governor Hogan's focus there. I want to continue to be a partner on those major economic development and job opportunities. And the only way I know to do it is to be out there every day, knocking on doors, seeing folks, hearing their ideas, and following up.
Well, you certainly know Worcester, Northern Worcester really well, growing up there, and you have run there. But now you're introducing yourself to new people. What are you hearing from Somerset people? What are their issues? What are they concerned about?
So first of all, what's been great about it, and we do a lot of parades. I really enjoy those. Did a lot of Christmas parades in the new areas.
Your float in the St. Patrick's Day parade was one of the best ones.
Well, there you go. I mean,
the weather was terrible. I don't know why you're out there, but you were.
We have a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun with the parades. Our volunteers like to be out and about as well. And mainly what I'm hearing in the new areas is appreciation. Thank you for making taking the opportunity to come down, to listen, to really hear what our ideas are for taking Somerset County and other areas to the next level. Really focusing on the partnerships, what is already working, how can we strengthen the partnerships from the local level to the state level with Governor Hogan and everything he brings with his cabinet. Because if you notice, when Governor Hogan comes on the shore, he brings the full team. You consistently see the Secretary of the Department of Commerce, Mike Gill. You consistently see the Secretary of Maryland Veterans Affairs, Secretary George Owings. You see the Department of Planning, Department of Housing, Ken Holt. All of these folks have really great ideas that even go beyond their own departments and agencies. And they have clear marching orders from Governor Hogan to work closely with the locals to see what will actually work at the local level.
He really seems to like us.
Absolutely.
He seems like he likes to come down here.
Larry Hogan is here all the time. As a matter of fact, there's one story that he sometimes tries to sneak into Ocean City where he has his own place. And one time he ran into a reporter, actually Brian Gillian, and I think Brian was on the boardwalk at the arcade with his kids, and Governor Hogan was there with his grandkids. And Brian turned to the governor and said, Governor, we didn't know you were going to be down here this weekend, and does Mary Beth know? And he goes, no, don't tell her because she'll put me to work. But what's so great about that is that Larry Hogan considers the shore not his second home, it's his other home. And that means the world for all of us.
Well, good luck in your endeavors this year all the way through to the fall, and we're thrilled to have you back. How can people reach you if they want to talk to you?
They can definitely go on my website, which I know that you guys will show, and that's probably the best way because you can get my email updates and can see my event schedules as well.
And tomorrow you'll be at the Chamber of Commerce where they do the roundtable review of the thing.
That's always exciting.
It's at the La Quinta at noon on Friday.
We come off a session, and there's a series of legislative forums, and the Salisbury Chamber of Commerce has one of the premier forums, and I'm really looking forward to catching up with everybody.
She's Mary Beth Carozza, wrapping up a 4-year term in the House of Delegates, and we're just thrilled when she comes back and gives us a report. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Greg.
I'm Greg Bassett for the Salisbury Independent Newspaper, another edition of 101 right here on PAC 14.
First Shore Federal is proud to support PAC 14 and one-on-one. We'd encourage every business to support PAC 14 and pick a program and support it, and let's make a difference.